Now, on BBC2, we enter the world of nature with a look this week at the environmental damage caused by teeming tourists. Wish you weren't here.
Holiday dreams have turned into environmental nightmares. Overcrowding and pollution are now unwelcome guests in many Mediterranean resorts. Bookings are down and the casualties are evident. This Mallorcan hotel went bankrupt. Its redundant staff went on the rampage. Meanwhile, we move on from destination to destination, restless to discover a new holiday paradise.
Could you give me some details about holidays to Disneyland, please?
Tourism is just another branch of consumerism. We're consuming the world, we're consuming experience. We are persuaded by travel agents' hype and tourist board hype that where we're going is going to provide everything we need to make the dream come true. Sand, sea, and now increasingly sex. But in fact, we bring to that paradise location the 3 Ps, which are inevitably a part of mass tourism, which is pollution, prejudice, and prostitution. It's interesting how tourism moves down market. You get a fairly unspoilt location, which is then identified, spotted, publicized by the travel writers. And gradually it becomes more and more mass consumption object, and as it's mass consumed, it's destroyed. The people who first went there don't like it anymore, so they move on somewhere else, and so the pattern is repeated. Eventually, everywhere will be like everywhere else. There will be no new experiences.
A few more lessons, and even the beginners will have mastered this most delightful and exhilarating of sports. From then on, no holiday will ever seem quite the same as a winter sports holiday. And in the friendly alpine countries that the airlines have brought almost to our doorstep.
Mass tourism took off in the 60s, when prices tumbled and almost everyone could afford to travel abroad. Our demand for holidays has escalated ever since. Even Britain's seaside resorts are benefiting from our insatiable desire to travel, to get away from it all.
Chasing a dream, they're chasing a fantasy, they're chasing escapism, because really we don't go places, we go from places. We escape environments which we find intolerable or boring or too routine, and the figures show that people who live in cities are more likely to take holidays than people who live in the country.
Get away somewhere different, change of environment completely.
Mentally too, you need a lift. You get into a routine.
David Lewis is a professional people watcher. He conducts surveys for travel companies to discover why tourists choose certain holidays and what they think of the experience.
I don't look forward to coming back from holiday because I take to it so easily.
How many holidays would you take a year?
2 or 3.
Is that the same for you?
Oh, definitely 2 or 3. Every chance I get, I go away.
At the moment, only 6% of the Americans go abroad. 60% of the British do, but in fact we're unique in Europe in the number of holidays we take. If everybody in Europe, if everybody in the Eastern Bloc countries, if everybody in the increasingly wealthy Third World decide they want to travel, then the 600 million people who are flying around the world will double, treble, and the world can't cope with that.
Today, tourism is the world's boom industry. It's already the leading employer and one of the most significant sources of wealth for many countries. By the turn of the century, it'll be the world's biggest money spinner. A generation ago, travel was a luxury for the privileged few. Now almost everyone in the developed world can afford a holiday. But tourism brings problems which grow as it grows. Skiing is wearing down the Alps. 25,000 miles of runs are causing erosion. Development along the Mediterranean has destroyed natural habitats. Litter swamps holiday beaches the world over. In Nepal, providing firewood for cooking and heating water for tourists is contributing to the rapid loss of forest. Trekkers use more wood in a day than local people use in a week. Killing wildlife for souvenirs puts extra strains on diminishing populations. Tourists upset wildlife. Here, the daytime hunting of cheetahs is being disturbed. Venice is sinking under the weight of tourists. It closed completely for a day in 1987. The Mediterranean is the world's most popular holiday area. And the Call of the Wild brings almost 3 million visitors a year, flocking to the world's oldest national park. So what do we do? Ban all mass tourism? Impose strict government controls? Limit who goes on holiday and when? Some believe the answer lies in an approach known as green tourism.
Green tourism is a concept and very difficult to describe because it applies across a whole range of issues. I would see green tourism operating at both the behavioural level, which is people understanding how to act in the countryside without destroying it, without making negative input to it, and also by countries themselves concerned in seeking to protect areas through tourism.
Green tourism has two aspects to it. One is green in the sense that we have a green party, that is looking at the whole way that we take our holidays and how we can reduce our impact on places. A more popular version of green tourism might be simply to ensure that the tourism we have is better controlled and managed.
Walking is the greenest way of getting around, but it can cause problems. The thousands of people who walk the Pennine Way may think they're green tourists, but they're eroding the path. It's costing £5 million to restore. The philosophy of green tourism mustn't be confused with green tourism the product, which isn't always environmentally friendly. The peace and tranquility of Britain's oldest national park disguises its problems. Today, the Peak Park is the most visited in Europe. 20 million people come here every year. National Park Officer John Anfield has the difficult task of balancing the twin demands of conservation and access.
Dovedale is a very beautiful limestone valley with the River Dove flowing through it. And what people like to do is to park and then walk.
Go on, get moving. Come on.
The problem is it's so beautiful, it's so close to so many places that too many people were doing it and they were actually beginning to destroy the valley they were coming to see. We reduced the number of cars that could park here from about 750 to 400. And that simple thing actually therefore reduced the number of visitors at a busy time. We then had to improve all the footpaths because they were wearing away, and we spent about £500,000 on doing the footpaths.
Bewley in Hampshire, an historic house which owes its survival to the tourist industry. Its owner, Lord Montague, has been in the business over 40 years. His suggestions for managing tourism are criticised as elitist by some, radical by others. But he believes no one has a right to see the world without some cost or effort.
I think the Peak District on very busy days should require advance booking, and if that doesn't work, well then there's got to be proper notices given, like in America, for instance, Yellowstone, where 100 miles away you get a sign saying Yellowstone's full today, and you just don't bother to go. There are places already which are restricting visitors, I mean, like the Parthenon in Athens. Venice certainly will have to do something sooner or later. You know, we can't just all go everywhere all the time.
Yeah, okay.
Buying a ticket for a trip to the countryside is a serious proposition for the future.
Go through the turnstiles. Thank you.
But isn't nature a free resource for everyone to enjoy? Is it fair to control our entry with a ticket?
I'm afraid the public have got to learn that the countryside and outside attractions are just the same as going to, for instance, the last night of the proms, where unless you book, you can't get in. The countryside has a capacity like a building has got, and we've all got to learn, and the people got to be educated, that just because it's outdoors, it doesn't mean to say that it can contain thousands of people every day.
Until now, tourism management and planning have been limited. People have seen the economic benefits, but have been blind to the problems. Crowded and noisy cathedrals, congestion in historic towns, wear and tear on buildings. Although most of us have complained about overcrowding, it's easy to ignore the fact that we're the cause of the problem. Sherwood Forest on August bank holiday. 20 years ago, it was possible to clamber inside the major oak. Now it's fenced off to protect it from thousands of pairs of tramping feet. There are those who believe the problem of people pollution will require uncomfortable solutions like rationing, permits and even closures. Some are being implemented now.
Right, ladies and gents, as you well know, it's Sunday bank holiday. Despite looking around now, the weather forecast is that it's going to be quite hot, quite sunny, so probably late this afternoon or even mid-afternoon we're going to get a lot of people about. So Ian...
High days and holidays stretch national park resources to the limit. Normally just 2 wardens police the upper Derwent Valley in the Peak District. Today there are 12. The rangers are equipped with walkie-talkies and their patrols planned with military precision.
Okay. So in view of where the others are going, Margaret, if you'll stay down in the valley for the rest of the day.
Yes.
This is where we're going to be busy, obviously.
The public holiday that last century opened up tourism to the working classes now threatens to paralyse the national parks. Despite the apparent chaos, the upper Derwent Valley is an example of one of the most successful traffic management schemes in England. Vehicles are banned on 6 miles of road in the area. In the future, park and ride schemes from Sheffield and Manchester, up to 20 miles away, could help minimise the parking problems. The only traffic now seen on the scenic road round the Lady Bower Reservoir are minibuses and bicycles.
Good afternoon, sir. National Park Ranger Service. Unfortunately, the car park's full at the moment. We have got some alternative parking back down the valley. It is full at the moment, I'm afraid. OK, fine.
These rangers are policing the waters of Spain's first marine national park. Anchors are destroying seagrass unique to the Mediterranean. For the last 6 months, boat owners have had to buy permits to drop anchor in Cabrera Harbour, an island just south of Mallorca. Last summer, over 300 yachts moored here. Now there are never more than 50. Pre-booking isn't popular with tourists, but as a way of controlling numbers, it's working.
¿Ustedes que esto es un parque nacional?
Sí.
¿Necesitan un permiso para...?
Sí, señor. Tengo los permisos aquí.
Vamos a ver. Perfecto.
Gracias.
Oh, you've done it again.
Back in Britain, forest rangers have replaced redcoats in providing entertainment at a new kind of holiday village.
Have you ever been with your school on a little pond like this or anything? Some of you must have been. What do you think we're going to find in a little pond like this then? Fish. Any idea what sort of fish?
Goldfish, maybe.
No, not normally. In a little pond like this, and loads
One answer to mass tourism is to isolate holidaymakers in purpose-built leisure resorts like Centre Parks in Nottinghamshire. In 1990, it won a Green Tourism Award. It caters for over 250,000 visitors a year, taking pressure off other sensitive areas. But it's not cheap and not to everyone's choice.
Purpose-built environments can be a useful way of channeling large numbers of people into a relatively small area. So it's the sort of the honeypot notion, you ghettoize the holiday area. There are arguments for that, of course, because it means that less of the total is destroyed. The trouble is that in many third world countries, simply by creating this ghetto, you create an enormous disparity between the rich and the poor end up losing a lot of their scarce resources, such as water, to these ghettos.
But developing countries need to capitalise on tourism. Many are boosting their economies by selling holidays under an eco-tourism banner, encouraging tourists to invade the wilderness. But a Himalayan trekking holiday may be less green than a package tour to Mallorca. True green tourism means much more than just getting back to nature.
Every tourist, in a way, can be a green tourist simply by modifying behaviour to take account of local issues, taking products with them that aren't going to pollute the environment, buying local goods and services, so therefore making a contribution to local economies. A lot of tourism money actually goes straight out of countries to major international concerns. You can also act in a way that helps local people by understanding local cultures, by understanding local ways of life. You can be a good ambassador whilst at the same time having a marvellous holiday.
Green issues are the biggest challenge facing the travel industry in the 90s. Most people have visited a bottle bank and recycled newspapers, but is it possible to reconcile a green conscience with having fun in the sun? There are those who think it's perfectly possible and believe that green tourists will soon be choosing holidays as carefully as green consumers choose detergents.
Do you think it's going to be a good place to go for someone who cares about the environmental aspects of tourism?
Yes, I do. I really do.
Alison Stancliffe is a member of Tourism Concern, which promotes greater understanding of holidaymakers' impact on local people and the environment.
In this issue, as with many others, the consumer, you and I, in fact, have got the key to starting a long-term process that can save the world's beautiful spots for future generations. Now, if we can take our courage in our hands and go into our local travel agent and say, what about this hotel? Even if that person doesn't know, if we can start the chain that eventually leads to the manager of that tour operation saying, well, I better find out something about this, I suppose, we're on to a good thing. I see it looks rather dry, which will be good for me as a tourist, but I'm not so sure about water for the locals. I see there's a swimming pool there. Do you think water is being diverted from local people?
I don't think, to be honest, there's a problem in that area because it is situated on a large river estuary. I think the water supply there is quite adequate to the needs.
To achieve any new, better kind of tourism, we in fact have to involve everyone. Now, that is not just the tourist, who is a very important key figure in the process, but it does involve also governments who have to be prepared to stick by the environmental regulations that they make and not turn a blind eye to what seems to be short-term profitable development.
Politicians are now talking about the environmental impact of tourism. Over the last year, a whole host of policy papers have been published. Although most have still to be put into practice, there are some exceptions. Switzerland, Finland, Austria, Norway and Germany all have national tourism policies. Other governments actively control visitor numbers. Bermuda only allows 600,000 tourists in every year, and for the past decade has refused permission for new hotels. The small Himalayan state of Bhutan, sandwiched between China and India, is more radical, admitting just 2,000 tourists each year. Back in Britain, other governments are being persuaded to think about tourism and the environment by Dick Sisman, chairman of Green Flag International, a non-profit-making organisation promoting the philosophy of green tourism. Today he's visiting Malta's tourist office.
Our first slide shows the Italian word ambient, now used in Malta for environmental terms. And this is linked to some of the most interesting archaeological sites in the whole of the island, superb pre-Minoan sites with visitors going to them, which are not yet interpreted or the public informed about correctly. I think there's much more that can be done to attract tourists to these sites. We also have some super green sites which would make excellent local nature reserves with endemic plant species, 2 sites there. And also coastal sites with blue lagoons and little development. On the other hand, we have development which has taken place in an obtrusive way, which is out of character with the local countryside. And yet people come along to indulge in green tourism pastimes such as painting. And obviously the island of Gozo has super opportunities to develop green tourism with the botanical interest, the buildings interest and the wildlife interest. And I think there's much we can do there. Part of being a member of Green Flag is that you, whether you like it or not, get a lot of information given to you about environmental issues. Now, for the environmental issues to be accepted by companies, they have to be presented in a very positive way, and companies turn around and say, gosh, that makes good sense, that's good for business. And what we're trying to do is to show that environmental issues can be incorporated into business management in a very positive way to the advantage of the tour operator, the advantage of the traveller, and the advantage of the countries concerned. That's our task.
It's the marketplace that's sorting out the problems of mass tourism in Mallorca. Deterioration of the environment and inappropriate development have led consumers to turn their backs on the classic sun, sand and booze holiday and take their custom elsewhere. Now the government is cleaning up its act, anxious not to be left with obsolete hotel developments on a ruined coast. It's realised that Mallorca's tourism industry needs litter-free beaches and a clean Mediterranean. Today, students from the newly established School of Conservation on the island are lending a hand in the battle against litter. Their tutor is out at sea.
We are now taking a sample of the water for control the nutrients.
Regular monitoring around Mallorca's coast is welcomed by tour operators like Martin Brackenbury. If the environment is sound, so are the industry's investments.
Also, we can take the temperature of the surface with this thermometer. Then is also a parameter very important to control the quality of the water. We obtain this parameter 2 times a week in all the summer, so we can observe the variation of the temperature.
25.9.
This is an important project to maintain the quality of the seashore for the tourism and also for the people from Mallorca.
The island which led the world in creating resorts for mass tourism is now leading it in cleaning up mass tourism's excesses. Quality rather than quantity is now the philosophy. For if tourism is to continue to underpin Mallorca's economy, it has to go up-market, with fewer tourists paying higher prices. Lager louts are giving way to wine buffs. Golf is seen as a new saviour of Mallorca's tourism industry. 8 golf courses are being built, 11 more have been approved. The government and tour operators say such new developments will spread the visitor load, and together they're planning the island's carrying capacity.
What we want to establish is a sensible balance between economic objectives of local people so that they live comfortably, together with ecological and sociological objectives as well. And if we can find methodologies for establishing what that sustainable balance is, then we ought to be able to use that same approach, not only in other islands in the Balearics, but the rest of the Mediterranean and across the world as well. So we hope it will be a kind of blueprint for the future.
But even simple environmental improvements cost money. So far, the island government has spent £65 million improving amenities. So who's going to pay?
First of all, it means the municipalities and the entrepreneurs are having to pay taxes, and then this is reflected in higher prices to the tour operators, and those are passed on to the consumer. So in the end, the consumer always pays. But the result will be, without any doubt, cleaner seas, cleaner beaches, better environment, and everybody having a much happier time.
Some believe the ultimate price consumers may have to pay to save the environment from the ills of tourism is to stay at home. But such a radical idea has far-reaching implications for both national economies and personal freedoms.
We'll never get to the stage of